Joe Rogan was just offered another $100 million contract over 4 years from Rumble, the popular anti-censorship video platform that competes with YouTube. Rumble's about to go public via SPAC. And does that make the SPAC an actual buy? Right now, the stock, as of this recording, is up 22% just today. We're going to get into that. So give me a thumbs up. I certainly would appreciate it, guys. And let's start with the full story here. This first started recently with Neil Young leaving the platform, or basically being kicked out. How it started was that Neil Young actually requested that it was Joe Rogan or him, based off of some controversial content that was on his podcast, the largest podcast in the world, I might add you, and of course the largest one on Spotify. Spotify stood with Joe Rogan and said, okay, fine, if it's going to be you or him, you're going to give us an ultimatum, you're gone. So Neil Young left, and Joe Rogan actually came out with an apology, just basically talking about Neil Young. He didn't have any hard feelings towards him and his thoughts on the show, and we thought we were done with that. However, the cancel culture crowd decided to take a different approach and scooped up a lot of the content that Joe Rogan ended up saying the N-word on. And admittedly, I will say that I don't find any excuse to say the word personally, but this is where we're at. People are actively seeking out content to quote unquote cancel Joe Rogan. And so for that reason leads us to today with the offer from Rumble. CEO Chris Pavlovski sent out and tweeted a message to Joe Rogan saying, "We stand with you, your guests, and your legion of fans in desire for real conversation. So we'd like to offer you 100 million reasons to make the world a better place. How about you bring all your shows to Rumble, both old and new, with no censorship for 100 million bucks over 4 years. This is our chance to save the world. And yes, this is totally legit." Now, I'm not quite sure why he needed to put that this was totally legit in there, but nevertheless, this is very interesting dynamic. And this is what's caused the stock right now. As I'm looking at it, it's up 21% as of this recording. I wanted to get this message out as quickly as possible to you guys, so I don't have a whole lot of information here. But what I will say is the monthly active users for Spotify is somewhere around 420 million users per month. Rumble right now is around 20. And you can make the argument that Rumble is fast growing right now, and they could rival that of a YouTube or a Spotify, but we're not quite there yet. So is Joe Rogan really going to make the switch? Some might argue that yes, he will. Others say that no, he won't. And I think that there's an interesting dynamic here because yes, you can make the argument that maybe Joe Rogan appeals to a right-leaning crowd, but I don't think that he actually is right-leaning. I think he kind of stands right in the middle, especially with a lot of his stances on things. I don't think he really has bias towards one way or the other. However, when you look at this offer, it is a huge offer, a huge deal, and he doesn't have to necessarily deal with the headaches. So is he going to care where he's living as long as he's getting paid? That's a question that only Joe Rogan can answer. So is the stock a buy here? And in my opinion, I think there is something to this. Not necessarily the story on Joe Rogan, because that is all speculation right now. And if he says no, and if he doesn't take the offer, we could see the stock come back down to earth some. However, fundamentally, I think there is an argument that you can make to actually, own this and make it worth your while. Taking a look at the chart here, this is the daily chart. So each one of these candles is represented by 1 day of price action. You can see, like I said, this is up 22.33% now as of this recording and continuing the climb here. So would you chase this up here as high as this is going? And in my opinion, no. Again, I think there's a lot of risk in Joe Rogan just declining the offer. And I think by and large, he probably will. Just my 2 cents. That being said, there is a reason to own CFVI, especially if this SPAC goes through. Right now, the market cap's trading at around $500 million, give or take. And you look at the valuation here, according to Investor Place, and Rumble is said to be worth somewhere in the vicinity of $2.1 billion. So there is a lot of room to run fundamentally for this stock to continue to go up. I think that potentially this stock at least sees $20 within the next several months, especially if the deal goes through and we see more acquisitions of shows. I think that Joe Rogan is going to be a far-fetched proposition, but we could see that happen. I'm not going to rule anything out, especially if we see a huge star come into Spotify and give them the same ultimatum that Neil Young did. Let's just say it's a Taylor Swift or some giant superstar that brings in tons of streaming content and money into Spotify. Then they would probably be forced to make some sort of decision on Joe Rogan. That being said, Joe Rogan is their biggest cash cow, their biggest moneymaker on the platform. So would they be willing to part ways with Joe Rogan? We'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I really don't see that happening. But again, contracts that can always be broken. It all kind of depends on what's going to unfold. I think that, as far as the contract's concerned, they knew all the content that was on there before they signed on the dotted line. It's only coming to light now because more and more people in the public want Joe Rogan's head. So if push comes to shove and Spotify actually ends up having to release Joe Rogan's content to somebody like a Rumble, I think Spotify tanks. They wouldn't want any parts of either one of these platforms right now until until the dust settles. But let me know in your comments below, what do you guys think about this? Is there something to this Rumble deal, or do you think it's not going to go anywhere? I would love to hear your thoughts. Are you buying CFVI, or are you sticking with Spotify? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.